Welcome, everybody. It is Sunday night, and this is In the Batter's Box. It is the NGSC Sports Weekly Baseball Show. I am your host, Ralph Garcia, coming from a different location of the same house. So bear with me as I deal with all of this. Please remember the site. It is NGSC Sports.com. You get all of your current content. If you log on to the site right now, things are getting very busy here, so it doesn't want to load, but now it is loading. If you log on to the site, let's see what has happened over the weekend. A lot has happened over the weekend. Of course, Mike job, right? The Pittsburgh Steelers and the Pittsburgh Panthers gives us the Steelers game day preview versus the Cleveland Browns. That game's taking place today, tomorrow. I don't know. Sure. Charles Hartley. I wanted to say something else. Charles Hartley in the press box for Wake Forest football gives us Griffith's defense, rescue Wake Forest from disaster. The Wake Forest football team found themselves down 17-0. The Colorado win over Old Dominion. Texas Southern goes to Rice, which is down the road in Houston. Unfortunately, they go at Rice. Boston College. Boy, I tell you, I sat down and I said, let me watch a little Boston College football, John, and that first drive. The Eagles go down the field. They take a 7-0 lead. They're up early. They look good, and then Florida State becomes Florida State. But John, 31-29. It was a loss, and you were on WEI in New Hampshire, right?
That's correct. Yes.
Yeah, you talked about if the Eagles lost, that if they were going to lose to Florida State to make it a close game, it was a pretty good game for Boston College for being a loss.
Well, unfortunately, 18 penalties, which ends up being a program record, is not something that you want to be proud of. I mean, there were dumb football moments that took place that really did stop them from potentially winning that game, especially that face mask call late in the fourth quarter when they had a chance to stop Florida State and did. And would have given themselves the ball back with a chance to steal that game at the very end. This team is continuing to play undisciplined, dumb football, and it's going to kill
them. And that's all. Of course, we are now in the press box of UConn Huskies. We're not for this one, but of course, we get to have the contents come back for sure. For 17 UConn Huskies lost to FIU, and Wilder gives us NFL 2 Rams versus 49ers, Steelers versus Browns. And more, of course, on NGSports.com, where we never stop. Please remember us on Facebook at NGSC Sports, on Twitter at NGSC Sports. Check out our YouTube page at NGSC Sports. Give us a like and, of course, subscribe to the page. We are here, of course, with our co-host this evening, he is the host of the Enhanced Sports Show, Saturday 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern Time. So I'm freezing badly. Yeah, I was wondering about that, boys. I was wondering about that. This is what happens when you try another. Let's see, testing.
Yeah,
pretty bad. Yeah.
Yes, it kept freezing. It's like delays.
Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to introduce you guys we're going to change the topic and go to Boston. And as we go to Boston, John, we'll do it with John. And I'm going to go upstairs and join you guys upstairs. Of course, we have with us Louis and Warren. Louis.
Alf.
From Chicago.
2 weeks in counting.
Alejandro Vargas. ¿Qué pasa, pai?
Guys, ready to talk baseball.
Yes.
Of course, my partner and co-host, Mr. John Doucette. John.
Ralph, it's always good to be with you.
All right, so John, I'm going to let you take it from here. There's some stuff going on in Boston, and we'll let Alejandro. I'll be in maybe 2 minutes if I go upstairs and set up upstairs. But gentlemen, John, take it with the news in Boston.
Well, the news in Boston isn't all that great. Not only have they lost 10 out of their last 12, which getting swept by the Blue Jays this weekend, but they decided early this week on Thursday to fire their baseball operation, Chaim Bloom. And basically, we've talked all year long about models, business models, those that work and those that don't. And I think there's been a clear definition on both sides of that particular equation. And Chaim Bloom has been here for 4 years. Unfortunately, the Red Sox have only made the postseason once. That was in 2021 when they made it to the American League Championship Series. At the time Bloom was hired after winning the World Series in 2018, the minor league system was stripped. I mean, it was 30th overall in Major League Baseball. And at the time that they fired him, the minor league system had risen to 16th overall. They had made some really good decisions, and they made some headway in getting that farm system back to respectability and back to a place where they can do something with it. It does appear that this ownership group may have gotten somewhat impatient with what's been transpiring lately, and that may have led to what eventually happened on Thursday. The Red Sox have decided that they're going to take a long time to decide who's going to become the next head of this operation, and that could take well into the offseason. But they want to give the fans a world championship potential every year, and I do think that that's not always the case, because every team has to go through their window of opportunity and their rebuild, and the Red Sox are going through it at the moment. And I don't think that really the course of where they're going is bad, actually.
Not at all. I actually, the move took me by surprise. I actually was expecting Bloom to be in Boston for a long time. The way he just kind of re-energized that farm system. I mean, it was something beautiful. And we've seen with teams today, like, your farm system is basically everything that could really push it over the limit. I keep over here myself.
Right.
Oh, Ralph is back.
Here he is.
That's right.
Yeah.
He's back.
Yeah. So the move took me by surprise. I like I say, I think the Boston Red Sox are ready to compete next season if they were patient enough.
The problem I have with this is that if you're gonna listen to the idiot fan base, which it appears to some extent they have, it would sound like the Red Sox are going to spend $1 gazillion in the offseason to try to put a team back on the field that's going to contend, which I think would be the wrong approach here. This minor league system is ready to give them something, and if they continue to take that approach, I think this team can be not only okay next year, but okay for a considerable length of time. My concern would be that they're going to decide to strip this thing and bring players in just to win next year to give the fan base what they want, and then worry about it after that. And I think that's just the wrong approach.
You're correct. Like I was mentioning, teams like Baltimore, teams like Tampa, they've developed and they compete in every year. So if you going with the approach that maybe the Yankees or the Dodgers have, you've seen the results. I mean, Dodgers are competing, but you also see San Diego. That's a team that's overspending and doing crazy moves. I think you have
Not
to
helping him either.
let your farm system kind of take over your major league team and see if they could win you. I think they kind of rushed that decision there. I think Bloom is a guy that is going to find a job immediately, probably. So I'm curious to see who they're replacing with and what kind of mentality that person is going to have.
What bothered me about Thursday's press conference was when President Sam Kennedy said that he thought this roster, when it was constructed back in March, was a World Series contender, because it wasn't. It
No,
was
it
not a World
wasn't.
Series contender. It was a team that was a fringe playoff team, which I think is what has played out. And I think they are exactly where they should be. And that's why I think that what Bloom had been doing behind the scenes with the minor league system was eventually going to pay off the way everybody hoped. But you got to get there first. And
Yeah.
like I said, the business models, that really has been, to me, the fascinating part of the summer. The business models that have worked as opposed to those that haven't. And then you have the teams in the middle. And I think the Red Sox were one of those teams in the middle that could go either way with their business model. I think what Baltimore and Tampa Bay are doing, and even Cincinnati to some extent, that's where you want to go with your business model. And I do think that there is still that resistance among the teams in the middle to take that approach and suffer the losing seasons that you're going to have to go through to get to where they are.
Also, let's not forget, he's been saving them a lot of money because he's
right.
staying on the luxury tax for at least a couple of years.
This team had a $177 million payroll. Now, it will go up next year because of Devers' contract beginning. But, I mean, Corey Kluber's contract comes to an end. Adam Duvall's contract comes to an end. Chris Sale will be in the final year of his deal next year. It's not going to get extended. He'll be 35 when it's over with. I think the Red Sox may actually put him out there in the offseason to see if anybody's willing to take him. This team financially is in pretty good shape, so that's not an issue either. But I just don't think that spending $8 billion to make up for what they haven't been doing the past 4 years is the answer.
Louis, you got something to chime in?
I don't think so. I mean, that was a big shock. I mean, I know they have been doing, so well as of late, falling to last place and whatnot. But, it was like, it's like this whole bomb dropped on the Red Sox after Bloom was unexpectedly fired. And now they got, trying to build themselves back up. I mean, it's still possible, they can come away, with a winning season and stuff, but that wasn't enough to save Bloom. They got, I mean, look what was done with the Rays and the Orioles, like John said, how they managed to build up with their prospects and turn them into winning franchises. They got to go out and look for the right people. And, hopefully with the next manager, whoever they get, they turn this team misfortunes around, which they've because they haven't been the same team since, say, 2018 when they last won the World Series.
Correct. Look, you're absolutely correct. And that
or to put it this way, how the mighty have fallen.
That's true. But remember, when that 2018 team, to get to where they got to and to win what they did, that farm system got stripped. Exactly. And all the prospects were gone by the time the next season rolled around. It's why Dombrowski got fired halfway through the 2019 season, because they finally realized that what he did to win that world championship was really going to set them back for years to come, and it has. And by bringing Bloom in and bringing his theories in and bringing his philosophy in, it allowed them the opportunity to buy some time to build that system back up again. But to think that this team is ready to take that jump to become a World Series contender is somewhat unrealistic.
One thing for sure. I think the next guy that comes in, I mean, he's going to have the work cut out for him. The reason I'm saying this is you only have to concentrate on one thing. The offense in the Red Sox are very good. And they got some arms there, but you need to concentrate on starting pitching. I think that has to be the key for the Red Sox. So it's you going into a role like a president of operations, you kind of know what you need, because Bloom already put everything together for you. So let's see. I actually want to see I want to see them taking that approach and just hunt starting pitching.
Two things: A, the starting pitching needs to improve, and B, they've got to find a second baseman. I mean, if you want to criticize Bloom for something over the 4 years that he was here. They could not find a second baseman.
They drafted well though. They drafted
drafted
a lot of
but they
infielders.
just couldn't find one to bridge the gap to get to that. And that, I think, you can criticize him for to some extent. The other thing is the baseball IQ of this 25-man, maybe even 40-man roster has got to improve as well. It's below average. There are too many times when they play dumb baseball, and that has to stop as well. I think if you can fix those things, then you have something to build with here. But until those things get corrected, you're going to be what you are.
I got a question, John. So when I look at the situation here with Bloom being fired, we know that in sports, and we're talking baseball now, that, for example, the manager usually gets fired. It may not be all his fault. It could be, partly the general manager. It could be, but somebody's got to
held accountable.
Somebody's head has to be cut off. And so a few things, John. Of course, when Bloom was brought in, remember he was brought in large part, to help Henry and the Red Sox cut costs on the team. This was after, of course, 2018 that you mentioned. Remember when we were doing the show back in 2018 and you talked about what the Red Sox were doing in 2019, and I was looking at you like, why in the hell would you do that after winning a world championship? He spent a decade and a half in Tampa Bay. He worked his way up in Tampa Bay, and he became an integral part of that team's success, building that team's success with a small payroll. Mm-hmm. And there were constraints put on him by Henry and company. So it's not all on Bloom. How is it that it worked in Tampa Bay, but in those 4 years, because the Red Sox just didn't have really any success in the 4 years that Bloom was there. Sure, the farm system was built, but the team didn't do much. Why is it that it worked in Tampa Bay, but they never could in Boston?
Impatience, I think, from the ownership group is something that certainly has to be taken into consideration here. I also think that the first thing that Bloom had to do when he got hired was to trade Mookie Betts, which was an unpopular move at the time, but one of the cost-cutting moves that you're talking about, Ralph, that they needed to do because they just weren't going to pay him the $300 to $350 million that it was going to take to keep him around. Bloom at the trade, and remember, at August 1st, the Red Sox were only a game and a half out of the wild card spot. They had several different avenues that they could take to potentially get to the playoffs because they still had games with the Blue Jays, still had games with Texas, still had games with Houston. So there were a couple of different avenues that they could take here. And Bloom kept saying at the time he wasn't going to trade prospects for rentals. He wasn't going to do that. If he was going to trade the prospects, it was going to be for people that was going to be around for a few years. He never could find them. How hard he looked, I guess, can be debatable, but he never found those players. He was really banking on the return of Chris Sale, the return of Tanner Houck, the return of Trevor Story, and even Garrett Whitlock to be the final pieces to the puzzle that was going to get them over the top. It didn't
All of
work.
those guys underperforming, yeah.
Right. It didn't work.
Right. And you had that, but Alejandro, here's where I'm going with that, and that's great, John. And I love how you started with the impatience from the ownership group, because now, Alejandro, you've been asking, so who now? And it's not just who now. What is the purpose of that who when he gets here? Because it's not like, are the Red Sox ready? Is it going to be a couple of more years before the Red Sox are competitive in the American League East again? So are you bringing in some guy to just hold over? Is this somebody? So this is where I'm kind of, going where John said with the impatience. You got a guy, Alejandro, who proved himself beyond a shadow of a doubt in Tampa Bay. Exactly. I mean, beyond the shadow of a doubt.
No, he proved himself.
Yeah.
He proved himself also in Boston.
Yes, he did.
I think, like I mentioned, the new guy is going to have the work cut out because he's going to have the avenues that John mentioned. I mean, you're going to have to get starting pitching. But the good thing about this is like you now, thanks to Bloom, you don't have to sacrifice a prospect. You could go sign a free agent or two. So, like I say, I am curious to see who's going to take over and what the plan is going to be.
Would they go after a Blake Snell? I think that's interesting. Would they go after a Marcus Stroman? I think that's interesting too. And what kind of money and what kind of years would they provide either
There
one
you
of these
go.
guys.
There you go. Are you going to pay these guys? Because then I'm going to go back to say, so what was the purpose of 2018? Are you going to now 5 years later turn around and start paying people to try to go back to what you were? Then why did you stop that? Oh, by the way, Louis.
Yes.
Louis, holy smoke, Louis. Listen,
I don't like where this is going.
Louis.
I
here.
never do.
I'm here.
You know, Louis, there was a thing going on. It made me think about something.
Yes.
Jesus Christ, I hate the
Poor
Yankees.
Louis.
Let me guess.
I
Yeah, you hate the Yankees and the Orioles don't suck.
Oh, I hate I hate the Yankees. Holy moly. You know, it's near the end of the season. And I started thinking the season's over for the Yankees and the Mets. And though I won't ever stop hating the Yankees, that's a 24/7. That's like a machine that doesn't go off.
Oh, we got to touch on the Mets too, because that's a good
Oh,
one.
yes.
Yeah, we'll touch on the Mets. But I just thought I don't know if Louis, if I ever told Louis before, Louis, I hate the Yankees, Louis. I really do. But it's going to be interesting to see now how this works in Boston, because like I said, I pitched a bitch 4 years ago. Here they are. You're coming off of 5 years ago. You're coming off a World Series.
Yeah.
And then you all of a sudden bust it all apart. And again, John, help me out here, because you tried your best, and I didn't get it. It wasn't you, it was me. But you did your best to explain this to me 4 years ago. So here we are, 4 years later. Could you explain to me again what the hell they did in 2019? Because I still don't get it. I mean,
Well, they had nothing to use in 2019. That was the problem, because they eliminated all of their chips. They threw them all into the plate, as they say, to win that 2018 championship. And so when they came to spring training in 2019, there was nothing there. Now, they could have signed Betts. Okay, maybe they could have done that if they really, really wanted to. But he was going to end up playing for bad teams, because there was nothing else with him that was going to allow them to continue being what they created for that 1 year.
I think when you do a pyramid puzzle, right? You're doing a pyramid puzzle. The Red Sox have the foundation already. It's just missing the top pieces, and
Right.
the top pieces are the person that's coming in is going to have to deal with that and figure out which is the right piece. I think, and I mean, from you mentioned Blake Snell, but I also like Jordan Montgomery.
Yeah.
I think he kind of fits the Boston Red Sox. I mean, he's a guy that he's a grinder in the mound. So that's another guy that might look interesting in Boston uniform. Let's see, man, because I really want to see what's going to be the top pieces of that puzzle.
I think what became very interesting about this division was you had 5 pretty good teams in this division. But you had two different business models that were being operated in the same division.
Yeah.
And the business model that Baltimore and Tampa Bay is using is the one that's working. Toronto they can go either way. They can go either way. And then you had the Yankees and the Red Sox that were using a business model that just didn't work. Right.
Yes. That's another thing. We like a lot of people, you kind of blame the business model from the Yankees. You could blame the business model from Boston Red Sox. We also have to give credit to whatever Mike Elias and Tampa and the same Toronto are doing. I mean, because whoever thought that they were going to be this good?
Right.
And in Seattle and in Cincinnati, where the business model is also starting to take potential shape. I think in Pittsburgh it will too, but it's going to take a little while longer. Right. But I think those are the business models that it would appear that Major League Baseball is going to, which is the draft and development. It's not about spending the money anymore. Mm-hmm. It is about drafting properly and developing after you draft, and then you take your shot.
Louis, what the hell is going on in the Bronx?
Well, I mean, we did take 2 of 4 from Red Sox, so that helps us about. But today losing against the Pirates of all teams, that put us back in a hole again. So we're kind of going. We're kind
Well,
of
you've been in the hole since I think the 4th of July.
Oh, come on, not really that much. I
Oh,
mean, we
yeah.
have been making
Actually,
strides.
yes. Actually,
We have
yes.
been making strides the past couple of weeks, but I think that today's loss, kind of set us back a little bit now. We've only got what 2 weeks ago. We're 74 and 70, 76, 74. We got a lot of teams to jump over, so it's going to be a tight mess, a tight squeeze to get into a wild card spot. I know everybody's
Well,
thinking
you
not
still
possible.
believe that this team can make the
I
playoffs?
do. I do think they can make it. I know you can all
You
doubt
got
me.
to
You can
do
tell me
the
all you
math
want.
here. You've got to do the math.
No,
I am.
John.
I love this optimism.
Didn't we discuss this last week? We'll ask Louis with 2 games left in the season, after the Yankees have been eliminated for 2 weeks, if he thinks they still have a chance to make the playoffs, and Louis is going to say yes.
I do. I still think they have a chance.
At some point, the math takes over here.
You do understand
As long
that,
as it's still mathematically possible, I think they can do it.
Hey, he's an algebra right now.
That's it.
But they don't play any of the contending teams that they're going to have to play to make that jump.
And Louis is a perfect example of what I mean about hating the Yankees. See, Louis special to me, so it's an exception, because it's Yankee fans like Louis that really get on my last freaking. It's like it's over. It's like over, Louis. It's done. They're not gonna make the playoffs. It's over.
So?
But these damn ignorant, stubborn, hard-headed Yankee fans, it's like, you're outnumbered 14,000 to 4. You only have 1 gun and 6 bullets, and these guys are in the foxhole saying, we can get this done. We can get out of this. No, Louis, no, it's over. It's over, Louis. It's over.
Oh, I think so, huh? Maybe I'll be more convinced by this time next week, but right now I'm still they can still make the second wild card spot. I think they can do it.
Hey.
Louis, they'd have to go undefeated.
Really?
And they need help if they go undefeated. It ain't just
undefeated.
Right. They need a lot of help.
Yeah.
Undefeated.
Okay, Louis. All right.
Well, 6.5 or 7 from back in Seattle, right?
Yeah.
That can be made up.
That's what you call a real fan, and I think that somewhere along the line, I think.
Yeah, but Seattle's got to lose the next 6.
Yeah, at least, and actually more than that, really.
And I don't like that chances with that pitching staff. I think it's kind of impossible.
Louis obviously not listening to me anymore when I say that one of the requirements of this network is no drugs before a show. obviously,
I will say this about Yankee fans. They're tolerating the business model that team is using. They're not screaming for Cashman's head. They're not screaming for Boone's head.
Yeah, what about that, Louis? What about that? You happy with the way things are? I mean, don't you want?
No, of course not.
I'm going to tell you the answer. They got a tease of the future. They got a tease of the good scouting the Yankees are doing. And kind of the old format that they have in over the past decade or 2 or maybe 3, it seems not to be working. So, I mean, you got guys like Jason Dominguez. I mean, unfortunately, he had Tommy John, but the other guys, Pereira, Cabrera, Gleyber Torres. I mean, this is different energy. So.
But you got to get rid of. You've got to get rid of Rizzo. You got to move on from him.
Definitely.
LeMahieu, you still have for another couple of years. Stanton, you still got for 3 more.
Ooh.
There's still some bad contracts here that you've got to figure out a way to coexist with.
You got to relocate the damn team out of the country. Listen, by the way, guys, don't know if you got the memo. Baltimore Orioles don't suck. What a series.
I got that memo.
What a series with the Rays, man. What a series with the Rays.
It was the heavyweight fight that you thought it was going to be between those two teams. And I think the one concern that you'd have about the Orioles is the starting pitchers and the fact that they've gone past their innings limit for the year. How much gas are these guys going to have left when they do get to the playoffs?
That's why you got a guy like John Means taking over.
Right.
I mean, in the playoff, you only need three, maybe 4 guys. Move the rest of the.
They've got to make sure they stay out of the wild card. If they end up in the wild card part of this playoff, they're done. They're cooked.
Yeah, they may get too much usage out of these guys.
Right.
If they go.
And that's why they made the move to get Jack Flaherty, hoping that Flaherty would be able to take some of those innings. But man, I saw him Friday. That's not good. That is just not good.
After Tampa Bay tied Baltimore there for the lead before these last 2 games of the series,
right.
I'm thinking, is this the Tampa Bay team we were watching in the beginning of the year? And is there going to be a change here at the end of the season? Because, it would have been easy for Baltimore to fold in the sense of realizing, well, this is a good Tampa.
We're too young, right?
We're too young.
Right.
And youth like that has a tendency to do that. So that shows what's been built in that clubhouse there. And here Baltimore comes back in these last 2 games, especially today, rallying today a couple of times to win 5-4, and now they're 2 games up. Alejandro?
You know what shocks me? The consistency of Tampa. Because they lost how many guys in that rotation?
Oh, at least 2. Right, at least 2.
At least 2, but I'm pretty sure, they've been hampered with a lot of injuries, especially that rotation.
And suspension too. You got to forget they their best positional player is not around either.
How the hell are they still in the picture? Is what is blowing my mind. But kudos to them, man. It's just they play an incredible ball, and consistency is the key word here.
I mean, Zach Eflin Friday night was just on another planet.
Yeah.
Just on another planet.
Glasnow got hit, right?
Right. Glasnow got hit, but Zach on Friday night was just that was an A game that he threw against Baltimore, and they couldn't touch him. I was interested in the fact that they took him out after 7 innings because I really thought that allowing him to finish that game, since it was a 4-game series, made more sense than having the bullpen finish that game. But that's the way Cash went. And we've seen in the past how sometimes Cash can kind of
unorthodox.
Right. Do things.
Speaking of getting hit, Louis, didn't one of your pitchers get hit in the head by a 100?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was ugly.
That sounded horrible.
The Friday night game, yeah. I was flipping channels and we came into the 6th inning, and ooh, that was a nasty hit. I was wondering what was going on, but the ambulance came out and everything. That was just so horrible.
Did you hear the thud, Louis?
Oh, yeah. I don't even want to remember that.
Yeah.
It was the sound.
So pretty shaken up.
There has been some talk. You know how in softball, the players, particularly the corner position players, wear those helmets with the face mask in the front?
Yeah.
There's been some talk that baseball is going to consider the same thing based on the fact that these line drives coming back at pitchers at the velocity.
Not a bad idea.
When he got hit,
they have tried many things, man.
Yeah, it was the sound. It was the sound when he got hit.
Yeah, it's an ugly thud.
It was like, holy, geez, you thought.
I'm actually watching it on my phone, right? And I had my headphones on, and I'm a guy that I'm all about acoustics. I like sounds. I didn't like that one in particular. Like I have goosebumps.
No,
I
sounded bad.
I seen some line drives to the pitcher, but nothing sounded that creepy. It's just crazy.
Yeah, he came out. Thank God, because the way it sounded like it broke his face.
Broke the skull or something.
Now, I don't wish, I do wish the Yankees to break apart and fall apart, but I don't wish any of that on a single player,
Thank you.
The race for the wild card. Tampa Bay, of course, has clinched At least that portion of it, they still, of course, are looking for the division title over the Orioles. But the race, more importantly, the race between Toronto, Texas, and Seattle. No, Louis, I'm not going to include the Yankees, John. I'm not going to include the Red
No,
Sox.
that's fine. You shouldn't include the Red Sox. They're done. Like I said, they've lost 10 out of 12. It's not going to happen for them.
That's a man with common
The Toronto
sense.
thing is very interesting. They get swept by the Texas Rangers earlier in the week. They get outscored 35-9. Then they would come back and they sweep the Red Sox over the weekend with 2 walk-off wins on Saturday and today. Meanwhile, the Texas Rangers go to Cleveland and they get swept by the Guardians, which is what's created this little 3-team mix that you got going on. Now,
How can
the
you not be
problem for Toronto is
romantic
the
about
fact that
baseball?
they don't see Texas or Seattle anymore, but Texas and Seattle will play each other at least one more time. So the advantage is really with Texas and Seattle here, because the Blue Jays are going to have to hope that they keep winning while those two teams basically split whatever they have left with each other.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. 2 100 lost teams. The Royals have lost 102. The Oakland A's have lost 103. You know, at the beginning of the season,
That's nasty.
I thought the Oakland A's were going to lose by 120 games.
Yeah, I did too. The fact that it's only potentially less than 110, I think would be a significant accomplishment for them, to be honest.
It really looked like they were a 120 lost team, and
so I think they took 2 out of 3 out of Houston.
Yeah,
I think they're playing spoiler real well.
Right,
Maya. Yeah, so for Maya, it's not a storm. My dog, I think, heard a motorcycle. She thought it was thunder. Maybe it was thunder. That poor dog. I wish I had it. So here's what I do. I have to keep the local news channel. I can't get it here. Local news channel app, weather app, to pay attention to the weather in the neighborhood because of this dog. Good Lord.
She's running the show.
Yeah. Anyway, in the National League, of course, that's pretty much done. Atlanta and the Dodgers, of course, winners of the NL East and the NL West. That was not a matter of if, but just a matter of when. Right. Louis, I asked this question of Don Stokes, and he answered it differently. I told him, well, one of the things I do on the show is that I asked Louis, who's the only team in baseball that could beat the Los Angeles Dodgers?
The Dodgers themselves.
Well, Don Stokes' answer was the Atlanta Braves.
And that could be true too.
Yeah. I told him, sure. I said, you're right. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
That was
my second answer.
The other thing that he said that I wanted to bring to the show tonight was, I asked Don, I said, Don, how do you feel about, the playoffs and where they are, the American League, the National League? He said, I'll tell you in the National League real quick. The Braves have no reason and no business losing the National League.
Not at all.
Not at all. He says, I asked him, how does he feel about Baltimore in the American League? He says, Baltimore, if they play Tampa, be careful because they may not get past Tampa, but they won't get past the Houston Astros. He is picking an Atlanta Braves Houston Astros World Series. You like that, Louis?
I like that, especially the Braves Dodgers. I had that circled in already.
Nobody's picking Milwaukee's pitching, man. Milwaukee's pitching. It's some serious shit, man.
No,
I think the problem with Milwaukee will be can they score enough runs.
I was just about to say.
I don't know what type of drugs Marcana took, but Marcana seems to be in every moment.
Yeah, but Alejandro, they don't have enough offense. They just
don't
have enough offense. You're talking about a Milwaukee team that will eventually have to go through Los Angeles and Atlanta.
Give this. Atlanta has no pitching. As simple as that. Try might be good. Atlanta.
Atlanta's the best team in baseball. They don't give a shit. They got to
They, I
run.
mean, they have the best offense. They have the best offense. But besides Max Fry, I mean, you cannot rely on Strider. Strider is a kid that still you have to manage his innings. But other than that, that bullpen is you could touch it. You could touch the bullpen unless the Braves scored 8 runs every game of the playoff, which is very confusing if they do. I don't know. I like Milwaukee's pitching, man. I like the rotation. You guys got like Woodruff. You got guys like Burns. You got Peralta, and on top of that, have you seen that bullpen? Kevin Williams, Uribe. Those guys are shutting everything down.
You know what,
The
John?
problem
All you
with
need
that
is
theory,
three.
however, is that bullpen is going to get used too often. That's going to be the problem. And eventually you figure out how the bullpen operates. And good hitting teams like the Braves and Dodgers will eventually figure it out and take advantage of it.
John, if these
Let's
guys,
see. Let's
John,
see.
if these guys are going to get high before the show, I might as well start doing the same thing again.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I'm not picking them to win the World Series. I'm saying that a lot of people are taking them for granted, and that what wins a postseason, wins a postseason is pitching. That's everything.
Oh,
That's
absolutely.
defense.
It's pitching and defense when you get to this part of the year, no question.
Exactly.
But I do
All you
think
need
the
is 3
reason why,
runs.
right? Well,
Guys, the story in the National League right now is this wild card race.
Oh yeah.
yes.
You got the Phillies, the Cubs, the Diamondbacks, the Marlins, the Reds are still in it. The San Francisco Giants are still in it. I mean,
you gotta give the Cubs a lot of credit. They could have easily traded Stroman and Bellinger at the trade deadline and gotten an awful lot in return for those guys, and yet they decided not to do it. And look where they are.
And also, Steele, that kid is out of this world. I mean, he's probably him and Snell are probably the front runners for the Cy Young in that now.
I mean, that's a big series in Arizona between the Cubs and Diamondbacks.
Yeah, very big series. Very big
definitely.
Series. They're playing now. As a matter of fact, Louis. Damn them Yankees, I tell you.
Now, I was kind of shocked that the D-backs didn't add in the trade deadline.
I don't think they had the money to do it. I think that was the problem.
But they could have. I don't know. I mean,
yeah, top of the second in Arizona, and the Arizona Diamondbacks have an early 3-0 lead.
By the way, everybody talks about catchers, right, and catching prospects, and Francisco Alvarez and Rushman. But watch Gabriel Moreno for the D-backs. They sent Carson Kelly packing just to give this kid a crack, and he's so clutch. Every night he's just driving in like the winning run, and it's unbelievable.
By the way, Alejandro, you want to talk about the Mets? What do you want to talk about the Mets for? I don't want to talk about the Mets.
No, I want to see. I want to see how Stearns do with a bigger budget now, and I think we spoke about that last week.
We spoke about it last week about the fact that
all
right, you want to see what we want to do with a bigger budget, but here's a guy who may be able to go in and tell Cohen, hey, wait a minute, before you go spending that money, I think maybe I could help show you how to get it done without spending
spending.
Yeah, but I think this is where the impatience comes in. Cohen is a guy that wants to win now. He's not interested in developing for the future. And so for Stearns, he's going to have to prove that he can win now and in the future.
It didn't work.
He probably changed his
I know
mind.
it didn't work, but that doesn't mean that you deal with an owner that's going to change his thinking or his philosophy.
Stearns needs to come in there and basically tell him, listen, boss, I'm going to say this as nice as I can. Shut the hell up. Leave me alone. Let me do what I got to do. And let me do what I do.
And relax, right?
Just sit down and relax. And let me do the job that you hired me. And more importantly, why you hired me. Why? Because
what are they going to do with the GM? The young kid, I forgot his name. John.
I don't know. And you also got to figure out who's going to be a manager too.
Yeah.
Well, you said it last week that just
might bring counsel in, right?
bring counsel with him, and
the reason why you bring counsel with him is because his contract expires when Milwaukee's season is done.
Yeah. I don't know, that would be I would have no problem with that as a Met fan. Absolutely no problem getting Stearns and counsel. That's a pretty good package right there. That's a pretty good package.
Okay, so Ralph, members of this roster that you wouldn't want to see around next year would be whom?
Oh Lord, this guy.
Go for it. Putting you in the spot, man.
All right, now we have contracts. Okay, so obviously, I'm going to talk without contracts. Somebody asked Francisco Lindor, listen, you like the cold, you like the tropics, you want to go to Guatemala, you want to go to Honduras, but I got news for you. You're not staying here. That's for sure.
Curious you're saying that, because I mentioned in a group that I am that he's a very attractive piece if you want to rebuild, because you could send them like maybe to the Dodgers for a couple of pitchers. The Dodgers they stack with pitching, so the Dodgers have that need now. That they need a good shortstop, and they are the only one that's going to absorb that type of contract. I think it would be a good idea for the Mets to move him, especially there. So let's see. Which other one, Ralph?
Well, my thing is first thing, before I mentioned Lindor, what I should have mentioned was, they have backup for shortstop. Right, but is this team now in win now mode? Okay, because look at what happened. He spent all this money to get all this talent to not win, and now he mortgaged the house, the farm, the 2 cars, 3 of the kids, and now where are the Mets? Okay, you got some young talent there, but I look at a guy like Alonso, right? And I say, I really, really enjoy, any Met fan enjoys watching Pete play baseball. He plays hard. He's a good baseball player, one of the better offensive players in baseball. But if I'm Alonso, I'm asking and looking around. I don't know. Do I want to be a part of this? Alonso knows he can get paid. So why do I want to stay around? So those are 2 guys. Alvarez, what happens there? It isn't so much who I want gone, because who I didn't want gone are all gone. All the guys I didn't want gone are all gone. So it's like, what the hell? So it's a matter of who we keeping, who are we going to get? And this is what bothers me. Like when we were talking about the Red Sox doing what they did in 19. And then hearing you guys saying, okay, well, then what happens now? Do you sign a Snell? Do you sign to this one? Do you sign to that one? Well, the Mets that went out and spent this money, and all the money that all the guys they spent the money on are now gone. So what are you going to do now? You're going to spend more money on other guys? Look, I would rather right now this team rebuild. Develop. Why? We have watched the likes of Tampa Bay, Baltimore, and the other teams that we've talked about set the tone as to how you build a baseball team. We've also talked about the fact that others have tried it. It doesn't work for everybody. Okay. Mm-hmm. It isn't just having talent in the farm. It's having the coaches and manager and the front office that can work together to develop these guys. I would rather my New York Met team be a 3rd, 4th, 5th place team for a while and watch the team develop, build the talent. John, something's wrong.
Well, with that work,
I see the wheels turning.
Because with that work in New York, I mean, the Mets are competing with the Yankees.
No, it's not going to work for the fan base, John. But you know what? The fan base.
I know. I agree with that. I agree with you. You do have to ignore the idiot fan base, absolutely, because You don't want the idiot fan base to influence the decisions that you make. But still, if the Mets are going to be a third, fourth, fifth place team for 3 or 4 years, putting people in the seats is going to be somewhat difficult.
No,
Yeah,
Definitely.
no, you're gonna put they're gonna be in the seats in Citi Field, just like they're gonna be in the seats at Yankee Stadium. That's
yes.
it's Louis. You tell them, Louis. One thing we don't worry about in New York is the seats being filled for the Mets and Yankees.
Absolutely not.
I watch a New York Met team that sucked for years, and people were in the stands. They're gonna come. They're gonna come, but
they will. It's a baseball town. You're not going.
It's a baseball town.
It always will be.
But it's something. Go ahead, Alejandro.
I feel like also David Stern's going to go in with his work cut out. In a sense that the Mets have a young core of hitters that they're going to be controllable for years. So there's a weakness there, and it's a pitching side of the player development. Kind of concentrate on that, and you might have something going. I'm not saying next year, but like you say, you want them to develop, right? Concentrate on that. Like, just focus on that. I don't know. I mean, I think dealing Lindor could make sense because you could get a horse like three.
No, see, that makes sense because of what you can get for Lindor. Yeah, exactly. You can get a hole.
And just tell your scouting department, look, main focus, pitching. We worry about like in later rounds of the draft or later on in the international draft or whatever they planning to do after the CBA. Like, concentrate on pitching first, and then we because the guys that they have, Vientos, they have Ronnie Mauricio, they have Batty. I mean, one more year of them is going to work wonders for the offense, I think. And unfortunately, they don't. I don't know. I haven't seen the depth chart of the Mets in terms of prospects, of pitching prospects, but I think that's a pretty thin, very thin line there.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of work that has to be done. Same thing, Louis, in the case of the New York Yankees. You know, you see, you guys have gone out, you've spent money. What has that gotten you recently? And you know, you're a true fan, a true New York Yankee fan. You get tired of watching your team spend money and not win. At some point, when do you? And again, guys, we've been talking about it. You know, baseball,
as I've said,
ahead,
as I've often said, more money is not necessarily going to make your team better. No. If you're not pitching well, if you're not hitting well, who cares what your name is, how much money you're making? You know, more money is not going to make your team better. You can still suck even if your player makes $100 million over the next 5 years. You can still suck.
And that's why when I heard initially heard the news of Bloom being fired, I'm like, wait a minute, hold on. You know, sure, front office guys get fired, general managers, but here's a guy who literally spent over a decade proving what he could do. I mean, he came from the bottom up. He was a very integral part in what the Rays did and the model that they've set. And you don't give this guy a chance after you decided, okay, fine, we're going to gut the team, bring the guy into a gutted team, basically handcuff him in what he could do. And then 4 years later, 5 years later, you get rid of the guy. It's like, come on, you know, I mean, so, you know, I would love, I love what I've watched Tampa Bay do, what Baltimore has done. You know, Johnny brought up the Cubs and another team. You know, when you see that happen, you know, I want to see my big market team try that. Let's try that. Let's try to develop some players. Let's get some scouts, like Alejandro said. Get the scouts out there and start looking. Let's go with the pitchers. Let's start looking at that. Let's start building some time. 2-3 years, and maybe, because, you know, it's been proven, you know, you just can't buy championships.
It's always difficult for the big market teams to take the patient approach because they haven't done it. And
they have all the money in the world.
Right. And because they have it, they're just going to spend it because they think that's really the only way to accomplish the ultimate goal. And so I think that when you tell them to slow down and try a different approach, they're going to resist it because they don't know any better.
One thing that the Mets did well I mean, besides hitting the contracts of Scherzer and Verlander, was grab back the outfielders that they did for the Houston Astros and also the Acuna kid for the Texas Rangers. I think if you're building around guys like Nemo, right? Nemo is under contract for a while with them, and I don't know what the future is going to be for Pete Alonso, but build around those two guys, and just focus on your pitching and like look for pitching in every way you can.
But to me, here's the key. If you can't convince Alonso that this is going to get better, and if he decides when it's time to walk that that's what he's going to do, that becomes another hole for the Mets that's going to be very difficult to fill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
how about that NL MVP? Oh, Matt Olson is about to hit 60 home runs.
Yeah, I'm going
to finish third.
I think next week we'll start delving into the season awards. How about speaking of the Mets? Big Sexy says he's retired.
Oh, nice.
Well, not only is he retiring, but he's also become a co-owner in that Baseball United operation.
Yeah.
First of all, I said, Big Sexy, you're retiring. Well, no shit. You should have retired 10 years ago. But, hey, congratulations. Number one, when you have a name like Big Sexy, I mean, wow.
That's scary.
Wow.
The dude is one of the most humble guys I ever met, man. He has like a lemon feel in the Dominican where he cuts his own shit and puts it on the like he has.
He was one of those guys that really was trying to hang on because he thought he could get to 300 wins.
Yeah, well, that's kind of difficult.
I know, but he really hung on because he thought he could get there.
Oh, and by the way, for anybody that didn't realize this, the Baltimore Orioles are in the playoffs.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's I
marvel.
Yeah, I marvel because never for the rest of my lifetime, I just figured they would just suck forever. I mean, it was.
We all did.
Yeah, it was so bad. It was so bad for so long.
Oh, it was horrendous.
You knew that you got up in the morning. You go to the bathroom to do your usual thing. The sun would come up. You have to pay taxes. You got to go to work. The Baltimore Orioles suck. That was
because those are
you gotta admit though, I was disappointed in seeing the Thursday and Friday games and seeing the empty seats in Baltimore.
Yeah,
it's really something. It's really something. It's really something to see it. As I've been saying for a couple of years here. Shohei, can you see? Or in this case,
you're not.
And anybody see Shohei, John?
A very interesting video that was posted on Twitter on Friday showing Ohtani in an airport heading, I'm assuming, home after he cleaned out his locker and decided that the final 2 weeks of the season he was not going to stick around. And has left the team and I'm assuming the organization as well.
What are you trying to imply? What are you implying, John?
Well, I think it's now become a foregone conclusion that he's going to be in another team's uniform next year based on just walking out on the team the way he apparently did over the final 2 weeks of the regular season.
What I don't get about this whole situation, when he got leaked on to the media, he cleaned out his locker, and I think the Angels are trying to cover that story up with the injury. He was playing with an oblique injury, anyways, and they were playing.
Well, I'll tell you what, for a guy walking through an airport, he didn't look like he had an injury.
Yeah, right. Any at all. Yeah, very good, John. Because I was like.
Something suspicious.
Yeah. You shouldn't be walking like that.
I think Shohei Ohtani has the gutsiest agent, maybe, because he knows what the guy's worth it, so he could kind of dictate the pace here. I never seen this. I mean, you under
Why
contract.
bail on your teammates with 2 weeks left in the season? Why bail on them?
You don't bail on them. That's another thing. And also, like the day before they doing the ceremony for Miguel Cabrera, which is a guy that's adored, right? Trout was in the disabled list. He made the trip. It's a really strange situation, and I hope we get some clarity like later on, because I don't know what to make of it. I think that injury thing is bullshit. But they've been going back. They've been going back and forth. You remember I think it was back in July or something like that. The Angels recommend him not to pitch, and then the agent wanted him to pitch so he could get the money, and now he got to have Tommy John surgery. But there's some miscommunication there. I don't know, or some friction, and everybody's trying to cover their ass there. I think Ohtani's calm, and I think, but the Angels, especially, they really cover in every track there. In terms of like protection.
Interesting about this is September 15th is a very important date because it was the last payment that the owners had to make to all of their players. So Ohtani got paid for the year. So after he gets paid for the year is when he decides to clean out the locker and bail.
Yeah, I wasn't leaving until I got my final check, John.
Right.
I got to make sure I get my money.
I mean, for a team now looking for a guy like Ohtani, you know, you have some leverage because now his price going down. One, the injury, and now his attitude and the attitude of the agent. I think there's some weird thing going on, and I'm curious about what's going on there because this is crazy, man. This is circus.
I mean, look, you know, we were wondering how this season, you know, would end for him. Nobody saw this guy. He walked out. The whole locker cleared out. Nobody saw this coming except Ohtani himself. Because obviously, guys, that did not happen on a whim. Okay?
No, and I do wonder if he did it in front of the teammates or if he did it behind their back.
Either way, this was premeditated.
It was orchestrated. Yes, it was orchestrated.
He knew. The question is, how long before he knew, and at what point did he tell himself, okay, this is when I'm going to do it? You're right, John. I'm curious to know is how did he do it? Did he do it on his own? Did he do it in front of his teammates? If he did it in front of his teammates, then for me, that's it. That's the clear signal of, hey, guys, I'm done. I'm done with this whole fucking organization. I'm out. So,
right.
Curious.
That is.
Right. Crazy. And here's a guy who knows. He knows. I could do whatever I want because I can.
You can't be so pricky about that.
But there are plenty of ways you can do this. There's the correct way to do this. There's the incorrect way to do this.
Something happened. Happened. Okay, this is a guy who's quiet. This whole young career so far been quiet, no drama, no issues, and all of a sudden he just walks out.
Also, remember the same night that this stuff leaked out, the Angels didn't have no comment. That's what they said. Yeah, John, I don't know if you read it.
No.
They say we have no further comment.
You have no further comment on it.
Then next day you come up with this BS. It's an oblique injury. He's out for the season.
And I said, what
in the world, man?
That was an oblique, because that's what you waited for. They'll explain everything. They'll explain everything on Saturday. So I'm waiting, they're going to come up, with an explanation and tell us what happened, what might have it's oblique. I was like, come on. I mean, come on.
You didn't stop him with a torn tendon on the elbow. You didn't stop him.
Right. So why would you stop him with an right? Right. Come on.
But I don't think that Ohtani expected the video of him going through the airport to end up being out there.
one thing for
You
sure.
don't expect. I don't think he expected that to happen. I don't think he expected somebody to actually recognize him as he goes through the airport to catch a flight to go wherever he was going. That part, I think, is the one aspect of it that he didn't anticipate.
I think I know where he was going. Home.
Yeah, he was going home, no question. He was going to Japan, no question.
He's going home.
Right.
Definitely.
He's going home.
Yeah. Well, one thing for sure, man. If I'm Ohtani, that agent's got to go because he's not advising the guy the right way.
Right.
And definitely just cut ties with the Angels because eventually
Well,
there's some.
you have to do it now. I can't imagine why the Angels would, first of all, tolerate what he did, and then secondly, offer him what he wants.
He's going to tolerate what he did because he's Shohei Ohtani and he's one of the greatest talents in baseball in recent memories. That's why.
Yeah, but you know what? You're gonna have to walk into that clubhouse and explain yourself, and that's potentially not going to go well.
Yeah. Well, I think he's made the decision for the team himself. So at least that's what it would appear.
Okay, so now he would be the thing for the Angels. Since we talked about business models forever, it appears, and it's a legitimate question. Now that Ohtani did what he did, does it make sense for the Angels to put Trout out there and basically blow this thing up and start all over again?
Thing changed within a week, within a day.
My answer is yes. My answer is yes, and my answer is yes because Mike Trout deserves better. I have really hurt for this guy most of his career because listen, let's be honest, okay? And we all know I'm going to give it straight as can be. The Angels are to me, one of the most embarrassing franchises in sports. This is a team that does absolutely nothing, little to nothing to win. They don't give a damn about winning. They don't try to win. They don't try to put together a team to win. And even when they have a team that looks like it might compete on paper, they still don't compete. So you know what? Why don't you go ahead and, you lost Ohtani, you're losing all that money. If you lose this guy, you have lost a shitload of money. So free Mike Trout, start all over again. Because you
free the whole team.
What was that, Louis?
Free the whole team, not just Trout. Free the whole team.
Yeah, free them all.
You could get tons of prospects for Patrick Sandoval. You could get tons of prospects for Detmers. If you decide to go that way,
you can build a whole new team with what you could get for those two guys and Trout.
And Trout, yeah.
Build a whole new team.
They already have some young kids there, like Logan Aholby, Nolan Shanwell, the first baseman. Just build around those guys if you want to.
Well, he was their 11th pick in the draft this past July, and he's already at the major league level.
Yeah.
Just that's a good one right there. Take those three guys, trade them, reload. And because it's embarrassing.
I wonder how Artem Moreno is feeling now for not selling the team.
Yeah, that was my next question. Does he now sell this team?
But he has no value now. He should have done it.
They should have done it, John. He's lost a lot of value.
I understand. He's lost all his leverage. He's lost everything. I understand that, but does keeping this team actually make sense to him now?
So for every bad move he's ever made, this may have been the worst one, not selling the team.
Right. This may be the worst one of them all, and unfortunately, it's going to force him to be stuck with something that unfortunately is it's in quicksand. That's the best way to put it.
That team. I mean, he has such a bad luck too.
That team, to be quite honest about it, that team is in worse situation than the Oakland A's are in.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's no hope. There's nothing positive except for, having a Mike Trout and having Ohtani. There's nothing positive there in the Angels organization, man. It's like, don't you want to for your fans, the fan base, and just the fact that you're a baseball team, have some pride in the team and I mean, do something. Do something.
Yeah.
Wasn't an incident too, or an issue with Rendon like this week?
Well, they put him
Fracture.
back on the injured list after he played one game for them. They put him back on the injured list again.
With a fractured foot or something like that.
Well, yeah, something along those lines. Yeah, I mean, he just played
What
one
in the
game, and that was it.
this guy might end up being the worst signing of all time, and it's not even close. I mean, you're seeing some bad contracts, but this guy does not deliver. Not even.
How did he get through the 2019 playoffs for the Nationals and not get hurt?
Don't know, man. I mean, back then that move made sense. I mean, not that much money.
Yeah, no, it did.
I think he led the NL and RBIs. I mean, the
How
guy
come
was.
the Yankees can't be this screwed up? Jesus Christ, man! Now that would be it's just sad. It's just sad, and for the people of Anaheim, do you care? Do you care? I mean,
Well, you do until hockey season starts.
Right.
Yeah.
They sure do. Because
Basically, like ass.
They got a hell of a hockey team.
Right, that's what I mean. So for 6 months, you got to care because there's nothing else going on.
Right.
That's the way it goes.
Unless you're Clippers fans.
We have come to that time of the show when I turn to Mr. Louis Tenor. I remind him, Louis, I hate the Yankees with a passion. I'm very happy that they are not going to make the playoffs because I keep wishing upon a star, Louis, but they're not going to make the playoffs.
I still think they have a chance. It may not be a great chance, but I think they can still make it. They've been on a hot streak in September. I think they can make
it. Here you go, Louis. Let me do this before
I do the math.
All right. Well,
somebody do the math.
Here, guys. No, I'm going to do the math for him. Louis, here you go. Before you do final thoughts, here's what we're going to do.
Okay.
If the Yankees somehow make the playoffs, you are barred from this show because I don't want to look at your face. At least, that's good, Louis. I like that. At least for the playoffs, Louis. At least for the postseason, you can come back. You can come back next year. If the Yankees make the playoffs, I don't even know if you know what? You might not have to do that. I might be too sick to do the show if the Yankees make the playoff. That would be Louis. Final thought.
Yeah, well, they just have to hope for what tight race between the Orioles and the Rays for who's going to get the AL East. So I'm going to pay attention to that. But I still think that the series to look for is the Dodgers versus the Braves. That's what seems to be the hot series going into the postseason. I'm betting on that's going to happen. These teams are too good to choke.
I don't see anything stopping that from happening. Alejandro, final thoughts.
Not more than a kind of congratulations to the Dodgers, just not only clinching, but the work that they do to turn guys around is just impressive. I mean, the way they turned Lance Lynn around, David Peralta. I mean, the scouting department, the Dodgers are equal to none, and that's something that deserves a lot of credit. I love seeing what they're doing. I mean, I'm not a Dodgers fan, but I really, really appreciate what they're doing with these guys and how they I think the data analytics and scouting department turning these guys around is just super impressive to me.
I just think that when you talk about the Dodgers, you're talking about finding pieces that actually are willing to fit where they want to put them. And because they're so willing to connect the dots and create the puzzle that gives them the chance to win, it's what they do. And I think that's really what this season has become all about. Teams that are willing to do that and the ones that are still willing to try and do it the old-fashioned way, because the old-fashioned way just doesn't work anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, of all the stories in baseball, I'm watching the American League West. It is this is going down to the last couple of days of the season. Sure, the Seattle Mariners has fallen back. They're 2.5 games back. The Rangers are a game and a half back of the Astros, but what a hell of a season it's been in the West. Again, remember that Texas Rangers basically owned that division most of the season. And then the Seattle Mariners went on that fantastic run, to take the lead. Now, as we said last week, the week before, the Astros are now, who we thought they were. But be they who they thought we were, they're only a game and a half up on Texas, 2.5 games up on Seattle. So that's going to be one hell of a race for the finish of the season. I'm enjoying the hell out of that race.
You know what you're finding interesting about all of this is that teams are starting their playoff run early.
Yeah.
They're starting it now. It's not 2 weeks from now. They're starting it now. And you do wonder what that eventually does to these teams when they finally get there, whoever it is.
Yeah. And that is the beauty of this, because when you talk about like the Baltimore Orioles, we're like, what a great season they've had. Wow, all of this. And then the question, of course, the big question for the Orioles is, well, that's fine, because the regular season is a regular season. And we know that in sports. And speaking of baseball, how many teams have we seen? The Atlanta Braves, how many division championships did they win in the 90s and beyond, and only won one World Series? You can do whatever. The Los Angeles Dodgers of the last 10 years. How many World Series should the Dodgers have won in these last? So the regular season is a regular season. The postseason is a different animal. And now with teams basically playing postseason baseball, because, except for the Braves and the Dodgers, everybody's still playing postseason baseball. Minnesota Twins are 7 games up, though, so they've got that division locked up.
Division sucks.
And the Milwaukee Brewers, of course, they're going to lock up the Central as well in the National League soon. But, you've got the wild card
race. For those teams that can lock it up now, it provides you with an opportunity to give a break to those guys that you need to give a break to. And that's going to be the Oriole problem. It's going to be Tampa Bay's problem, is that they've got to keep playing right until the end. And that's where getting to the playoffs may become where they hit the wall.
Yeah. But I was going to say, at least, for teams like the Orioles and the Mariners and the Rangers and the Astros and others, it's playoff time now. It's playoff time right now. And again,
but also like guys, like teams like Tampa and Baltimore, they have kind of the luxury to kind of take it easy on guys, because you want them in the playoff. They already
but you want to avoid that wild card. If you're Baltimore, Tampa Bay, that's what you're fighting to stay away from, the wild card. That extra series that you don't want to play.
Yeah,
true.
You're right, Alejandro, but that's the problem with Baltimore.
Double-edged sword.
And it's a double-edged sword, because you got to win that division. You got to win that division. If you don't win that division, then you're looking at, where do they fall? Who are they going to play? And we spoke earlier in the Baltimore Orioles case, what that does to using the pitching staff. So, and that's every team actually now.
But the least amount of times you use the bullets, the better off you're going to be.
Right.
The crazy part about those two teams is that they basically in the same picture. One of them is too young, right? So you want to kind of ease them into the postseason, and the other one is injuries.
Right.
So you don't want to force a guy like Glasnow to pull up his shoulder or something like that.
But at the same time, he's got to go out there every fifth day, because we need him to go out there every fifth day. He's got to do it.
So we've got, in some cases, 11, 12, 13 games remaining for teams in baseball.
So Louis sitting there trying to figure out how the Yankees will win 13 in a row to pull this off.
You really think it's going to take every game for them to win to make it to the wild card?
It will take
every game. Louis, let's do the math. So the Yankees are 76 and 74, 150 games in. So here's the first thing that has to happen.
They got 12 left.
They can't lose. They have to win all 12, Louis. Now, understand that, Louis. I mean, you're a smart guy. I know you're a smart guy.
They're only 6.5 out wild card spots, so it's doable.
Louis, they have to win all 12. Worst case scenario, they got to win 10 out of 12 and then they need help. They need help.
Seattle, they need to pray for Seattle to go in the back.
Seattle is
Texas.
Seattle is 4.5 games up on the Yankees. A 4.5 game cushion. So never mind. Let me take that back. The Yankees have to win all 12. Louis. They got to win all 12. Louis. You can't lose again. You cannot lose again. Every loss is another nail in the coffin for the playoffs. Because Seattle basically can go. Let's see. Seattle's got 149 games.
6-6.
Yeah,
that's right. They can go 6-6, right?
Yeah, Seattle can play 500 ball the rest of the way. 500 ball the rest of the way, and they've got 12 more for the Yankees.
Or lose 10 out of 12, which
Right,
is really
either way.
It's not. It's Louis. So Seattle is 149 games. They have 13 games left. If they win 7 of 13, 7-6, they have 88 wins. The Yankees have to win all 12 to get to 88 wins.
Wow.
Yeah. Are you getting the picture, Louis?
Maybe it's running it a little bit, but I'm still not giving up.
Next year.
Remember, it's not over till it's over.
Damn Yankee fans are like the Trump cult. It's like you can't tell them a damn thing. You can't tell them anything. Nothing. Nope. All right, Louis, we'll come back. We'll come back next week to remind you of Dandy Don's old song on Monday Night Football. Turn out the lights. Party's over. They say that all good things must end. Turn out the lights. The party's over. Not gonna happen, Louis. And again, if it does, I'm just gonna tell you guys now. I'm too sick. I'm too sick to do postseason baseball.
No,
I would have to say if they would go 12-0, and I mean they would earn it. There's no question.
Exactly.
Seattle's not going 7-6, Louis.
Okay, but stranger things have happened.
Yeah. Guess you can't tell him nothing, huh? Thank you for joining us. This is In the Batter's Box. It is the NGSC Sports Weekly Baseball Show. I'm your host, Ralph Garcia. For John Doucette, Luis Genoa, Alejandro Vargas, we appreciate you joining us this evening. Please remember the website. It is ngscsport.com, where you catch all of your current content. Please remember us. We're on Facebook at NGSC Sports, on Twitter at NGSC Sports, YouTube, correct, at NGSC Sports. Please go to YouTube. Give us a like, subscribe to the page. And I'll be back tomorrow night with my brother and 2 cousins. We'll be bringing you everything Titans. As today, the Tennessee Titans played their first home game. They hosted the Los Angeles Chargers, and what a game it was. The Titans pull out the big 27-24 overtime win. So we'll be giving you the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I don't know of any new news on the political front. So, by the way, gentlemen, before we go, I am going to work with my cousin. You know, we have the intro for the Everything Titan show. I now have an intro for the political show. I'm going to work with him for an intro for the baseball show. So,
batter up.
We'll see how batter up, Louis. Very good. Thank you for joining us this evening, folks. As we say down south, y'all have a good night now here.